to the Linda Hummel-Shea Art Space Gallery, which is now online. And our current show is the work of an alumni of Northern Essex, Kale Baker. Kale, want to introduce yourself?
I am so excited to be a part of this exhibit, and being at NECC was a wonderful experience for me. It allowed me to transfer out as part of the matriculation program there to Montserrat, where I completed my BFA in painting.
So the work that we're featuring here is this new series, which you call Vessels. There are, at the moment, 4, possibly 5 paintings will be in this. And then there's some other paintings that I see that were transitions up to that. So would you tell us a little bit about the Vessels series and where it comes from?
For sure. So the Vessels series kind of emerged as a surprise for myself. I had gone on a trip to a greenhouse with a friend back in September of 2020. It's in Rye, right on the beach there. I think it's called Fuller Gardens. And
yeah, they have the meditation garden there.
Yes, so they have greenhouse, they have outdoor gardens. It's this really kind of this beautiful oasis. So going there, I mean, I haven't been to a formal garden or greenhouse in a very long time. So going there really got me inspired. And previously, like you'll see in some of the works put in the show, I've been working with vast spaces, mainly the landscape. And so I started thinking about more intimate spaces while working with the landscape on a close-up scale, which led me into these plants, also got me thinking about our relationship with the earth in general in a different way, which was really exciting for me. So I kind of dove headfirst into that. But still, there's this kind of ongoing theme with the landscape.
Right. I mean, the thing you said about your feelings about in relation to the earth, because that's something that's been in your work for a number of years. At least I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it has. But it's different here. I think there is a more complex conversation going on, and it's not about that wildness as it is about this kind of interconnected vulnerability, which it has been in my previous work, but more so in a fragile way here.
What do you mean by a fragile way? I'm curious what you mean by that.
I mean, if we really want to dive into it, I think right now more than ever, we're thinking about global warming. We're realizing these decisions we're making need to happen soon if we're going to have hope for ourselves as a race moving forward here. And thinking about these plants in the greenhouse, not to get like poetic or anything, but they're in a glass house. We're in a glass house. We really need to understand that nature is going to keep moving. It's going to keep doing its thing. And we're just going to be a part of that narrative if we don't step up and work with it instead of against it.
Oh, that's interesting, because that's the kind of thing that one would not necessarily see in your paintings. As you and I have discussed in the past, the way someone reacts to a work has to do with their knowledge, their experience, their feelings at that moment. Does it ever bother you that people don't see those things in your work?
Never, no. In fact, it's kind of meant to be a personal exploration on my end. If people want to see my work as just a potted plant, then they can. That's the beauty in it, right? Of having art, of having it be seen and interpreted as something new.
Yes, no, I agree with you completely. Now, thinking about where your work came from, which there are a number of pieces in the show as well. When you are, as you are now, working on the vessels, the potted plant pieces, are you thinking about that process at all? Are you thinking about how you're laying color down, how you're laying form down, or is it more what's happening at that moment?
Oh, so yeah, there's been a huge shift in process. With the previous works, there's a lot of gesture, a lot of spontaneity, a lot of quick decision making. With these works, it's definitely slowed down. It's a little bit more formal. There's not as many surprises. in some ways, I feel it's been gentler on my psyche because, yeah, I mean, these previous works, they've required so much stamina and so much gambling, like there's high stakes involved. But with these most recent works, I find I can put down the brush and walk away and kind of think about it more. But I think that that's been valuable. Coming back to not basics, I would say, but coming back to slower, more, I mean, it's all formal. It really always is. You can't say painting isn't. Everything is like a thought out decision, but it's not as trying. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I think I understand what you mean. I mean, obviously we work completely differently, but we're both painters and we approach our work as you and I have discussed in the problem solving manner. But when I look at the new works, one of the things that stands out is your palette. Your palette hasn't changed that drastically.
No, it hasn't. I'm still like all about that orange and those earthy tones and having the underground peek through a little bit. So there is that. It's just a shallower space with smaller brushes, and there isn't that sweeping gestural vastness that can occur with a vast space. So we're working smaller in these shallower realms, but still trying to find bits of play and specificity while also keeping it loose and painterly.
Right. Well, I mean, you're also painting larger, though. It's interesting what you said in relation to the smaller aspects of it, because that has more to do with imagery than it has to do with physical space. So how does it feel to work bigger?
It's different because these pieces are more controlled. So I don't feel like I'm losing it when I'm working like really gesturally. I'm out of control. I mean, I feel that way. And with this, it's, oh, I know what's going to happen. So it's okay to work at this scale. But it's a challenge nonetheless. And I'm hoping that when I go back to the landscape, which I know I will, I'll take that scale with me.
Good. Okay. So we have a little bit more than 2 minutes left. What advice would you give to students who are painting or thinking about painting?
Dive in head first. You've got to love it. You've got to acknowledge that if you want to do this, it's got to be a part of your daily life to some extent, and to move through this with your heart, and your head will follow.
Well, that, you know, and you know this as being having been a student and as a painter, and you know, I'm a painter and I've also been a student and I'm a teacher. That one of the hardest things to get across to students is exactly what you just said, that you need to focus on it, you need to do it. You know, students will complain, I have no studio, you know, and I'll say, I've painted in a closet. It doesn't matter. You know, it really doesn't matter. It's a matter of focusing on doing it. And that's what's important. And I agree with you completely. Well,
you're going to have, like, real quick before it ends, you're going to have days where you wake up and you don't want to paint. You've got to paint anyways. You find a way to make it happen. And in some ways, if it doesn't make you crazy, if you don't paint, then don't do it. You know, you've got to really show up.
I agree. I agree. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Nothing other than I'm super excited to have my work up, and I hope that everyone goes and checks it out online.
Thank you. I agree. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, seeing you again. Haven't seen you in a while. And, you know, I look forward to seeing all the work again, and hopefully we can get together sometime soon. As we said, share studio visits. And for everybody who's watching this, please enjoy the work and feel free to question things, etc., because we appreciate that. Okay. Thank you, Kale. And I'll see you soon.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.